Hi there, I'm Alejandra Stamato, an engineer on the Android Developer Relations team. This week we are covering Android Studio Flamingo release. Here we'll try to find the answer to a question where to hoist state in Compose. So welcome to Write It Down. I'm Alejandra Stamato, Android Developer Relations engineer at Google, and today we're here to talk about text in Jetpack Compose. It receives an initial text, which is what you show when you first initiate it. In our case, it's empty, and for your convenience, and also an initial selection, which is also empty.
Hello, Android developers. I'm here with another episode of interview with one of the Android community active members. I'm very happy that she accepted my invitation because she has a background at Google working on Compose. And I got to know her at DevFest Berlin, and it's a pleasure for me to have here as a guest. So I'd like to ask Al to say hi.
Hi, Mohsen. It's great to be here. Thanks everyone. And hi. Yeah, it's been a long Android journey for me, I guess. I can start by giving a context for the people that don't know who I am. A little bit of context. Yeah, that would be, I started my journey of Android development a decade ago, I think. And sorry, actually, I started way too early. I'm Alejandra Stamato. I'm originally Argentinian. I'm living in London at the moment after spending 6 years in Ireland. And I've been through a couple of product companies building apps since a decade ago. I started as a backend developer, as you may think. That's, I think, how some of us started. And then I did my first app in college, and I fell in love, and I never left the Android world. And I spent some of my time working at Google as Android developer relations for Compose before moving back to product recently. So yeah, now I'm doing PL work these days, but that includes a lot of coding as well. But there is all these new responsibilities attached to that. So that's been interesting and different. Yeah.
Okay, cool. What was your first serious Android app? Was it a personal one? Did you publish on Play Store?
The first one that came to mind was because I learned so much about this project. When, white label apps, I don't know how popular they were. It was a good while back ago. We were working on this project that was super cool. Greenfield, big speech, our director of engineering sat us down for this new brand team of developers. He has this vision of building this white label app for airlines. Mm-hmm. And it sounded amazing because I came from a background of building already this travel app. So I was kind of familiar with the business around that. And it sounded great. As part of that, we had to accommodate a lot of adapters for all of the multiple backends that we may or may not have. Airlines have a lot of different things. It could be a low cost. You could have international flights that require different passenger details, forms. It was insane. It was great. Different payment methods, so on and so forth. It took us a long time, a lot of work to put that together. In the end, it wasn't I think things happen. So commercially, maybe it wasn't the outcome that the product team expected. And it did somewhat all right. Technically, it was great. Technically, it was a success, and I learned a lot. So that's when you said the first important app, that's where it came to mind because of how challenging it was, how much we had to do. And this was back in the day where we had no architecture, we had no guidelines, we had nothing. So a lot of those things were just in-house development and doing our own dev internally. I remember there was some folks very vocal advocating for we had MVP, but advocating for a certain architecture, and that is more aligned with the fact it's more MVVM. The app reacts to changes kind of adding reactive frameworks and so on and so forth. So yeah, challenging was the project was challenging, very challenging, and that's what it was, what made it great and very memorable.
Is it true that you somehow jump in middle of Android and start doing Android? How your background helps? I'm asking for people who just want to start. I want to give them a feeling how you feel when you start at that point.
Like if having a background in backend might have helped you, or if having a full stack, I think, especially with nowadays, with the current state of the modern Android development, with the documentation and the tutorials and the blog posts and the community being so engaging and Reddit and all these things, I don't think you need any particularly different background. You can just straight jump into mobile development if that's what you want. I think it gives you tools and it gives you a lot of power to know what other product functions do. Like you understand how the backend works in this way or that way, and that is fun. And the intrinsic differences of product development will be massively different between web teams because they can move faster and just ship, and they don't need to maybe do versioning. Maybe the backend kind of does for certain things, but responding to browser versioning and stuff like this. But so a lot of this can help you contextualize your work in a bigger company, but you don't really need any of that. Mm-hmm. Or you can learn from hearsay and take these things as fact, but not from experience, which obviously is different, but you can do it. And I would recommend anyone that is interested, just don't wait and just start with it, because you don't need any other career to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you almost encourage everyone to join Android.
Oh yeah, no, I am doing this and I keep on doing this, and it somehow always feels new and refreshing. To a certain extent, there are things that repeat itself, but there are things that are new. Compose is no longer new, but it's still exciting to discover all the things that we can do and the things that we can do that were not easy to do before. So that's been super cool to super cool to discover. Now, our designers come up with this crazy thing and it's not scary anymore. It's just oh, how can I do this in Compose? I'm sure there is this crazy modifier. And it's typically, or if you have to write your own stuff, it makes sense, it makes sense. It's not this obscure thing that you have to read and you have to understand. You have to be a UI toolkit thing engineer to develop, which felt like that back in the day.
Cool. I'd like to ask about your career path. Right now, you're a tech lead in Android. I'd like to know how you end up here. You can also mention what was your position at Google, because you came out of Google and now working with another company.
Yeah. So I started I grew from a very, except the DevRel, which might seem off, but it has everything fell together in one place for a reason. I don't think I took any shortcuts. It was my career progression was I started as a somewhat junior developer as backend and full stack. Then I progressed into doing my own apps, and I started as a mid-level software engineer. Then I moved to Ireland, which fast forward in my career massively. I was living in Argentina, and I wanted to explore my career in other places in which I knew that I had the impression that I could take my career to the next level. So I moved to Europe to do that. And in Ireland, I learned a lot in my experiences there. So I felt that was a catalyst to learning a bunch of stuff and being more in contact and get to participate in the community way more, or get to travel way more to conferences and things like that. And so that helped for sure. Progressed into mid-level, got promoted to senior, did a bunch of different senior roles in different companies, and maybe two. And then I got this opportunity to join the Android developer relations team. Why? I was already kind of involved in the community. Compose had just been announced. I was super excited playing with it. I participated in one of the stages of the challenges. Remember that it was a challenge that had like 4 stages. The first one, you had to like create a dog app and like, a chronometer and clone one of 3, that challenge. So I participated in that. I won this cool Lego set. It was great. And so yeah, past the interviews, fast forward, I joined Google. Amazing opportunity, insane, everything that you can imagine, why? Because I thought, why was I interested in developer relations? I was already kind of interested in community stuff, but I was also coding, and I like coding a lot, but I was thinking, there is so much more that we can do too, like as Android engineers and as Android developers, and what else can we do? And I like teaching and all these things, and they're all imperfect. And to be honest, it is super fun. Like, it has a lot of components that are so fun to do. So I got to do that, like work in Compose, research the things that I was super interested in. I was super interested in text. I got to do a lot of that. I got to do a lot of work in architecture in Android apps in Compose, like always very Compose specific. And then spend some time at Google. And then I was kind of missing product. And I got in contact with my former job at that time. And we started talking about how the team was was failing and which roles may be available. And there was this opportunity to be more senior in a TL role. And I had never done TL role, so I thought it was like a great opportunity to take my career to that level, like as a trampoline. It was like, they're giving me this opportunity that's maybe that's in building product, it was going to be more difficult at any other type of company. So I took the shot, and I said, okay, maybe this is what I need to explore now. And to it, it's been good. I've been enjoying it a lot. It's very different. A lot of other skill sets that are required there. So I'm learning a lot, and I'm feeling very motivated because it feels challenging again, but in a very different way. The numbers are like, people are no numbers. It's not the same, I always say this, it's not the same messing up a release than, messing up a review. So yeah, it's stressful in a different way, I think.
Okay, let's talk about Google hiring flow. I know many people are aiming for a big company like Google, Facebook, and things like that. So can you explain how was it?
Yeah, let me remember how the interview process went. It's been like a long time. So yes, it's all coming back to me now. So I got reached out by a recruiter and explaining the role, and I'm like, I know exactly what this role is. Wow, oh my God, freaking out, right? As you can imagine. And there are several stages. One of the the first stage is obviously you get to meet your HR partner, and they explain the whole process. They are super adorable, super helpful. Like they help you all steps of the way. They answer your multiple million questions. And the next step is for the Android developer relations pipeline. It's a phone screen. They call it a phone screen, but it's actually like this, right? Like, you share your screen, they give you a Google Doc, you code the problem, and there is an engineer that explains the problem, and you solve it, whatever. That interview, it's 1 hour, 30 minutes. It's like talking in general about contributions, and the other half an hour maybe more about the technical solution to the problem. So there is that, and then if you're able to pass that interview, you move on to the next one. There are I think it's 4 interviews. There are 4 interviews. After the first interview, there is a presentation, because they're evaluating your presentation skills above that. So you present in front of a panel, and then you have 4 interviews that are split in the same fashion. 30 minutes chat, a technical problem. And they are assessing different things. maybe more towards the community work, maybe more towards your experience leading people, maybe towards your experience more behavioral questions, like, and so on and so forth. And then after that, everybody knows there is like something like called team matching, that after you're like Google signs you like to join the company, then where, which team, right? Because of the role, it was going to be under developer relations, and there was like some options. So thankfully, I landed a team that I was completely super happy with. And yeah, that was that. I'm not sure if I'm missing something. It's been a while, but I think that's pretty much the gist of it. I had a lot of other calls regarding, oh, this team, maybe this team. What is this team about? Like, people try to help you, accommodate you a lot, like answer all your questions. So that there's something around that as well.
Cool. And now I'd like to jump on your tech lead role. You mentioned you kind of maybe was not ready for it, or you wanted to experience and start learning how it works. I'd like to know if you at any point feel some imposter syndrome, like, okay, what am I doing? I should not be here.
I think, that's a great question. I think this is something that many developers might suffer at some point. And to be honest, like, I'm gonna be quite frank, to be joining a company like Google with all these talents, like with all your amazing teammates, the inspiring conversation that you have both from work and from outside of work, it can make you feel like an imposter. Yes, definitely. And even from within your team, maybe, and then from anyone from the company, they can randomly pick and they tell you about the amazing thing that they're building, because you're literally talking to the person that built their thing, right? Like at Google, you find the person that built Flutter, that built the first version of Compose. That there is like there is a high profile, amazing, insanely talented people. So you can feel like that, yes, for sure. You try to manage this by chatting about this with your manager, checking in how you're feeling, you manage your expectations, so on and so forth. But I'll be lying if I tell you that I'm an expert at it. I just kept it under control, I think.
Cool. Yeah, you also mentioned all the possible solutions to get rid
of it. It's tricky, and not because it cannot happen in another like in any other companies, if you notice around you and oh my god, like there's this team is amazing, but you have to also remember, what am I bringing to the table? And one at Google, one colleague told me something that I was never able to forget. He said, look, imagine all the things that wouldn't get done because you're not here, right? And he made me look back at what I was doing, and I'm like, oh, that is so right. You're right. So you will try to talk, think, slow down, reflect back, talk to your manager to control the anxiety. Sometimes it's mostly in your head, and you shouldn't be comparing yourself to everybody else, because your journey is your own, and you have to be growing in comparison to your own self from a month before, from the week before, from the year before. And that's also, by the way, something that also another person at Google told me. So yeah, definitely chatting about it helps. As you can see, people are super willing to help you out in your career. So yeah.
Yeah, that was such a wise statement from your colleague. Yeah, that really makes sense. You just have to look back and see what was not be able to done if you were not here.
Yeah.
This is a question I ask from everyone who I talk with, and it's about, why do you think there are fewer women in Android developers, and mostly in tech? To be honest, I'm lucky that during this chapter recording, I was able to interview 2 women, including you. But what's going on? What do you think? What are your thoughts?
I think you're talking about Nicole as well, right? Like, that Nicole now works with me, so that's funny. Yeah. I think I was also like, you're right. Yeah, this is a trend that I see, that I noticed. I was thankful enough that since 2020, the teams that I've joined in these companies that, put so much emphasis in fair hiring and accommodating, and if you need anything like to accommodate your special needs, please ask, and try to be as inclusive as they possibly can, namely obviously Google, but also the company that I'm working for now. I've been part of teams that are like pretty balanced. So that's been great. I'm not gonna lie, that's been amazing. I love my other teams, but it feels just like so refreshing to have like so different voices and, ideas and considerations that wouldn't have been there if the team was like all the same type of person, namely all women or all men, so there is that. Why I think this is happening, I think it starts from very early on in how the education system works, in how kids are being raised, in how they are shown, the role models that are or are not there. Some of the most impactful, moments in my career have been finding that there are role models that I can look up to and feeling super inspired by them and feeling like almost starstruck because these figures exist and show me what the future might look like, So I think we need to start like from schools, and there's a lot of working towards removing the gender bias of things that is super important. Even from, pink is for girls and light blue is for boys, even from that, the segregation starts, and then the trucks are for kids and for little boys, and like the dolls are for, and why are you being so, loud? Look, and encouraging certain traits in boys and discouraging the same traits in women. So there is like the whole thing around this. It's not just how observing the consequence of a long chain of issues that leaves us in this position. Ada Lovelace, first programmer, was a female. Then what happened after that, right? We don't know what happened after that. We don't know what happened. It's like women lost this field or whatever. There is a lot of, a multitude of attempts and workshops and, people going to schools. And that's where you need to attack little girls, hackathons. We go to school to show them how to teach them how to go, to show them how to go, to give them a talk by this lady, because these things stick, in your brain when it's young and impressionable. These things stick, and this little girl will grow up thinking, oh, this thing that happened, I can be that person, But I think they grow up thinking they can be doctors or whatever because, you see that more, So yeah, hopefully it does change. Representation is important, I guess that's what I'm saying. Representation is important, and we need to be doing more.
Okay, thanks. You almost answered my second question, which was how we can empower women. But my next question is, what do you like about being an Android developer that you decide to stay in this field? Because, for example, you said you were doing backend and then jumped into Android, but you didn't jump out anymore.
Yeah, well, I was doing backend, and then I was doing kind of, full stack. And then I was like doing a little bit of data warehouse or whatever. I loved Android because you could, even though I was doing full stack, I felt like you could do everything. Like you could ship the whole product with this stack. And that was like super fun to me in this tiny screen. I thought it was amazing. And then carry it with me. Like phones wasn't a thing at that time. Well, they were, but they had started to be a thing. So that was great. I felt super powerful with that, I felt like, wow, I don't need a server. I don't need to deploy this anywhere. I don't need to put anything in AWS. or whatever. Like I have this, I ship this, it's done, it's perfect, whatever. And then that's what brought me there. Oh, cute. And what kept me there, it's two things. The first one is the community. I think like the Android community is like, I'm sure like other technology have their own communities, but ours is like pretty goddamn good. So ours is like amazing. With the conferences and the chats that we have and the Twitter drama, even when we discuss that we cannot compromise on whether we like, compose in the view model or not, even those conversations keep you engaged and keep you interested, because if no one's talking, no one cares. I community is good. And then the second thing is it always feels new, kind of, because there is always like, sometimes it's exhausting, I'm not gonna lie, but now with developing for the watch and developing in this 2-pane thing and adaptive layouts, and there is like it's pretty sweet. We wanna like, how is it gonna be developing in Compose for all these screens? How will we scale that? Are we going to try to develop for tablet again? Yeah, maybe. So it feels like new all the time. TV, Compose for TV, cool, and that is fun. That keeps you engaged. That keeps me engaged anyway, and it makes me still want to learn about all the things that I am not an expert of, because you can ask me,
Okay, knowing all the difficulties of being an Android developer, do you encourage your kid or a close friend who you really care about to start doing Android?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know why? Like, the first thing is because you don't need you don't even need a good laptop to get started with Android. You don't even need a good phone to get started with Android. So that's great. It's traditionally been true, And I know, like, I couldn't have started as an iOS developer even if I wanted to. I was in Argentina. I didn't have a Mac. I couldn't pay the developer license. I don't know, whatever. Like, I couldn't I didn't have access to that. That wasn't even an option for me. But even if it had been, again, our community, again, it's super fun. And I love what we do. Yeah, I would definitely recommend it. Yeah, I would definitely recommend keeping on the Android track. It's very engaged. It's very fun. Go for it. Go for it 100%.
It's interesting for me that you talk so proud about the community. I'm happy to hear it like this. I like to ask about your thoughts about multi-platform solutions like Flutter or KMM. Do you think they will somehow change the native Android development, or no, they're not going to capture this native world?
What a great question, what a great question. Flutter has been around for a while. It's getting traction, but there's still somewhat of a resistant look. The tool that does the job, the tool that does the job, especially if you need to go quick out there, and if you need to ship on both platforms, if you have your proof of concept, please be my guest. My personal opinion is that anything will be better than native, hardly. But the next best thing will be something that can be shared, KMP gives you, or KMM, whatever it's called these days, Kotlin multi-platform essentially lets you share at least the business logic, which is great. Compose will let you build for both platforms. That is fun. But I think that iOS developers will not buy into why would they want to learn Kotlin? They would like to feel like they are experts on their thing. So making them come on board could be very tricky unless they are developers that are inclined to learn something new and maybe divert from their platform. They would have to opt in on all of that. I know that if I would be the opposite way, I feel so I like so much what I do that I would be like, okay, I'm not sure. Let's maybe try it a little bit, but I'm not sure if I will ever be sold, So that's another consideration. What people like to, it's a hard sell, I think it's a great toy. I think it has potential for these small things. I'm not sure how well this will scale. There is a lot of momentum, so let's keep that going. There's a lot of momentum in conferences as well. Like everything, like especially in the conference world, people are like come talk to us about this, and especially if you are able to put it in production. How did you do it? How did it go? I'm not sure the current status of the tooling support yet. I know that there is like many like cool talented people working on producing more content and like being developer relations for all of that and reaching out and stuff like this. So it will definitely grow, but I am not sure it's ever going to catch up with native from what I can understand. Flutter definitely hasn't. In my view, in my opinion, hasn't to the same extent. It might be the great tool to do the job that you need. But, we'll see. Everything evolves so quickly. React Native is still a thing, by the way. People do not talk about that much, but for some, for some features that you can just plug very quickly and do the job, it served just fine. Much like, a web view does the job.
Talking about React Native, yes, we are also doing in our company because we have customers who are doing React Native, so we have to support them. My personal opinion about Flutter is the Dart language, which is a bit unlikely for me to learn.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that KMM is here because I, as a Kotlin developer, can do multi-platform, which is very nice. But I was reading also an article from Dan Felker, which also mentioned exactly whatever you said. Because of people, it's possible that you could not convince iOS developer who has their own system and ecosystem and language and development tools to come and join you and start learning Kotlin. However, those language, Swift and Kotlin, are very close to each other. But yeah, let's see where it goes. I'm happy that JetBrains as a tool maker started this trend because they also create the proper tool for everyone to start using it. That's very nice.
Yeah, I would love for it to grow a lot. For us, it's super desirable. We already know the stack. We could be but we are bringing them in, like, how would you feel? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe I want to add this to the tools in my toolbox that I have, but maybe I'm a fundamental of the iOS developers, and you know how they are, right? They love Apple. So I'm not sure how on board they would be. Hopefully we can all be friends and make this happen. Maybe KMM is the hybrid technology that everybody loves. We'll see. We have to see. It's too early to tell.
Yeah, let's see.
Here we'll try to find the answer to a question where to hoist state in Compose. And what state we're referring to UI state, or what you need to display in your app together with the internal state of UI elements. In any Android app, there is also two types of logic: UI logic, or how to display your state on the screen, for example, how to show you a list of messages, and the business logic, which are the rules that make your app, like where do these messages come from and your data sources. Where you hoist your state will be depending on what type of state you need to apply to this state. What type of logic that reads or writes your state.
Cool. I'd like to know what was your contribution with the Compose library. Where were you working on this library? Because it's now trend and everyone likes to know more about it.
Well, Compose, it's a collection of libraries. You have the material layer, and you have the foundations, and it's divided in the animation part, so on and so forth. I was working closely with in the developer relations team. We were supporting the engineering teams to understand their APIs and providing feedback and developing samples and code labs and talks and all these things to try to make sense of the things and contributing to the bugs. So there was a lot of that. I got to work also supporting apps from the ecosystem to better integrate some tricky parts of the Compose platform and report feedback and help grow the the ecosystem in this way. And in parallel, I was working with two big projects. I was working with text, so very close with the text team. There's been like the latest release of Compose 1.6, not that long ago, in the BOM 2024 0100, something like that. Essentially January 2024. And this version comes with a change that it's the include font padding change that we coordinated for a year in preparation for this release. We produced content around that, outreach, let the developers know that this was going to happen, because this change in particular breaks your whole, screenshot tests. So there was a lot of community management as well, picking up pain points, understanding them, preparing for those things that might come at you. So we did all of that for that, and now it's released, and now you see, as developers are upgrading slowly, now you see that it's good that we saw it coming, and now we have documentation that we can refer to developers. So that we produced multiple, documentation, a lot of documentation helping developers how to use, a bunch of new APIs that were coming, and mostly on text, because I'm a fan. I'm a fan. And also we work together with other team in the architecture team that takes a look at Android holistically for architecture, and made focus on, okay, how to architecture app, how to do state management properly in Compose. So we put together a couple of blog posts and talks around it. I did a talk as well on hoisting state for Compose, couple of months back, or years back even. So there was that as well.
Cool. Okay, based on my experience, texts are not easy. I'm interested how you like this field. But
I know. It's so fun that you're saying that, because when you say, and I thought I was the first one to say that as well. In your experience, text is not easy, but it sounds easy, right? Like when they're saying, oh, the text in Compose needs support, text in Android needs support. I'm like, it's text, right? Like, how difficult can this really be, right? But then you have line height and text spacing and like the styling of it, and like all the I18N and R to left and all these things around it. And it's this is not easy, man. What? Where did this come from? So yeah,
exactly.
I understand. Yes, I had to understand it, I guess.
I think the new component is called Basic TextField 2.
Yes.
This is the part that you work on.
Yes.
Question: where this 1, 2, 3, 4 pattern is coming from? Are we going to have a 3 or 4 at some point? Because we also have
that's a great
pager
question. How? Wow! I love this question. That's so funny. Maybe. Hopefully not. Hopefully this is it, and it looks very promising, and the API has a ton of thought behind it, and the team, I think, has done a great job, and it's like very clear what it's supposed to do. And to be honest, I'm getting feedback as we speak, kind of, about things that are desirable for the new API that the team is taking a look, they're already documenting, they have in their roadmap. So that is super interesting, right? Like it's like everything that you can dream of. Well, maybe not everything, right? But there's a big chunk that is not there yet that will be, for sure. So hopefully this is it, hopefully this is it. There won't be a 3, but I know what you're saying, the view pager 2 and 3, that's so funny. This basic TextField 2, once it's stabilized, it's not gonna keep that name. It's gonna be called basic TextField, and it won't be in a package called text2. It will be moved to the main text package. So that should help, because obviously as Compose is unbounded, you can do these renames, and it can be transparent. Why? Because basic TextField 2 has an override that it's the same override that basic TextField 1 has. It's just that under the hood it works out very different, but you don't have to know about it. And so it gives you that accommodation. It gives you the same API, but it actually works perfectly fine. Plus all of the other magic that now can be done with basic TextField 2, the new component to do stage management, the new API shape, and all of these transformations that are new. And if you need a text field that support that is secure and is, for example, for a password, you have other component for that and all these things. So hopefully this is it. It's not ready. I mean, it's still experimental, but you know what I mean? In Compose, the new alpha is, the experimental is a new alpha, so there is that. But it's not good. You don't have to expect it to change that much, so you can test it as we speak, really.
Yeah. You have great articles about this new text field, so I will put it in description. But let's talk about your great presentation at DevFest. How you bear with pressure of the presentation, because being on a stage, we all know has their own problems, and how do you make it work? I like to encourage people to present whatever nice work they are doing to the whole community when there's an opportunity.
Yeah, it's challenging, like it's not for like it's not super trivial. Like Ben Cuddle, who you also have on this channel, actually asked me this. You made it like, do you struggle? You made it sound, you made it look like it comes easy for you, and I'm like, thank you. It's not. I compensate sometimes by talking fast, which is terrible. But yeah, how do I manage? I prepare a lot as much as I can, because if not, that can play you in your head. Like if you have the impression that you're underprepared, it's gonna be a problem. So I rehearse. At least I need the mental security to be like, I know my stuff. I'm ready. There is no much. A million times that I need to like. There is not much more rehearse than I need, because it's like it's enough. Mm-hmm. So I make sure that is the one thing. Like I come like the day arrives, and I already have like everything that I need. My slides, I've checked them that all the transitions are not broken. And I prepare speaker notes. I don't necessarily read them, but I kind of, have them just in case, at least bullet points of things that I need to say. So yeah, preparation is clean, like it has to be in your head that everything is all right. And then the day, I like to take a bit of, like, it's, the half an hour before is terrible. Like the half leading up to it, it's terrible. It's gotten better. The more you do it, I think it gets better. You have to expose yourself to it if you like it. I think it's not for everyone. If you're not gonna be there, to have a terrible time. You can write, you can share in other ways. But if you're willing to give yourself a shot, maybe you can, and you deal with all these things. Maybe you discover that you love it, but you have to put yourself out there. Some people love it. I am like a little bit terrified sometimes. Again, 30 minutes before, it's the nerves. But then I like to use that and channel it as an engine to go out and to go out and use it to power my voice and to project what I want to say forward. And the second that you start speaking, all of that is just like it goes away. Like everything disappears. All of the nerves, it disappears. And you start kind of enjoying what you're saying. And you see people nodding, and it's awesome. So it is great once it's happening. And after, definitely, there is a 30 minutes that I'm not going to lie. Maybe you have to maybe you have to endure, and then it's great.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your experience. How you keep yourself up to date? The Android community is moving fast, as you mentioned. There are lots of discussion happening. There are new best practice which shows up here and there. Which material or I don't know, medium you use to follow up the news, and how you keep yourself up to date?
Well, there is one thing that I love, that it's the Android Weekly. I'm subscribed, big fan. I love that. For those who don't know, it's like a feed of all the articles and videos and podcasts that have happened since the last one, which is weekly. So whatever is hot in the last week gets published there. So I always love to scan through this to see what the community is up to. There's always super cool stuff, and there's always ideas that I can grab, and so that's awesome. And typically, it also includes, obviously, like the official link to things. For example, it included the release notes for the latest Compose and official articles that the developer relations teams put out. So that's great. And also key members of the GDE community as well, and that they're writing all the time, like producing content and all these things. So there is that. I love that newsletter. I love it. Recommend, subscribe to it. And then I would say, like, the official documentation, but that's not to keep yourself up to date, because that exists. That's a thing that exists. And you go to it once you have a problem. And then you find out what's hot in that, but it doesn't necessarily, sometimes it points at this is deprecated or whatever, but it doesn't show patterns of what is hot. And I like to see then the latest videos that the team is putting out, like the official, I guess the official Android developers channels, in particular the Math team. Android. Yeah, that as well. That is like a mini version of the weekly, but yeah, I love it as well. Like, it's very short, 5-minute video as to the hottest thing in the last 2 weeks. And sometimes it does, like, I'm gonna be quite frank, sometimes it includes things that I'm like, I'm not the audience for this, or I'm not sure if this helps me a lot, but it's like always useful to know that libraries are released or whatever. And so I like to see that channel as well for this. And yeah, I guess blogs and the blogs that are sent, and the Android dev Reddit is always source of material too. I'm not a massive Reddit fan. I just like scamming every once in a while.
Cool. Okay, I have some interesting question about the community. Do you have any hero in the Android community? Anyone that you say, wow, this guy is great, is doing, or she is doing great in this community? And have you managed to see them?
That's a great question. And because I was fortunate enough to have joined the Android Developer Relations, when I joined, I got to meet all my heroes, so I was like so fortunate on that. But they're like super approachable. We were all super approachable, like, in conferences and stuff like that. It's just that because you're starstruck, you're like, oh my God, what am I gonna say? Or am I gonna show them my app? It's kind of tricky. But definitely Florina for me was like the North Star and inspiration for all things community related / Android development, because she would talk about coroutines a lot. She would talk about Room a lot. She would talk about Jetpack Compose libraries, and little before I joined, Compose and everything became Compose. Fast forward, she ended up being my manager, which I adored. And so I got to meet her. And as part of the Google, as part of being at Google, we also get to meet other people in the community, other people that are in the community, but also building the thing. So I was fortunate enough for that as well. So yeah, then you realize, they are great. Like, everyone is like super great, super talented, but they are approachable. You can have these amazing chats, and it becomes like you're no longer starstruck, as in, ooh, but it's better than that, because like you can actually have all these amazing, inspiring conversation, bouncing off ideas, and it's great, to be honest. Everyone can have this, like, experience. We go to conferences, we have a chat, we discuss what you're doing, as I discuss what we're doing, and we put together in common all these the problems. We're all suffering with the same technology. We're all being happy by the same technology.
Yeah, that was my intent from asking this question. So I like everyone to know, even the person that you feel is very high in this community and is not is out of reach, if you see them and just go and say hi, they're really approachable. They are very open to discuss or share your pain. As you said, they all have said they had the same pains before.
Who is yours? Cool. Do you want to reply? Do you want to share with me your answer?
I think I've answered before. Hadi Harry. He's not Android community. He's Kotlin community. Kotlin. I managed to see him and interview with him. That was very nice for me. Philip Leichner.
Yes.
I managed to see him. He is doing great in YouTube. I'm just one of his fans and almost watching all his videos. He's also doing great in this community. And Jake Barton. I had I think I just took a selfie with him because he was really busy at that point. But I'm very happy to see him as one of the god model of this community.
Yeah, that's a good one to check. Again, look, we always circle back as to how great this community is.
Exactly. All those questions was related to community. That's why they always come back to the community.
Welcome to Now in Android, your ongoing guide to what's new and notable in the world of Android development. This week we are covering Android Studio Flamingo release, Android 14 Beta 1, Kotlin DSL, Pager Composables, Window Manager, and more. Android Studio Flamingo is stable. And this release includes improvements to help you build pixel-perfect UI with live edit, new features that assist you inspecting your app, IntelliJ updates, and more. Read our blog post or watch the video, download the latest stable version today and give it a try. But wait, there's more. When you upgrade to Flamingo and AGP 8.0, you need to update your app build files to accommodate 5 important behavior changes. So Boris walks you through them in his article, so go and check it out.
Okay, let's move out of the work and talk about your hobbies after work. What do you do as a hobby?
I would love to tell you something amazingly, like I build whatever, race cards and something insane, but I don't really have that something super interesting. I like to play the ukulele, so that's something. I like to draw. Like I got my, shame on me, but I got an iPad to learn digital drawing, so I like drawing, and I need to get a proper course to get better at it. But that's super therapeutic in a way. And then I consume a lot of streaming. I love YouTube and whatever I follow, and Netflix and stuff like that, which I don't think counts as a hobby, but that's their stuff. And lately I've been into the gym a lot, so that's taking a lot of time. Learning how to eat better, learning how to how the food affects what we eat, how we train, and going to the gym a lot. So I don't think that's a hobby either, but that's taking a lot of my time too.
Okay. Can you tell us a fun fact about yourself, about Ali?
Yeah, fun fact. I don't know if it's a fun fact, but I lived in Dublin for 6 years, and I'm bumped into a bunch of the cast of Game of Thrones while I was living there, because we were filming at that. Yeah, it was kind of cool actually. Like on the first week that I was there, we went to a pub because cool stuff to do in Dublin. So we went with my teammates at the time, and there was Littlefinger with a laptop in the pub and a lady beside him. And I think they were trying to not be seen, but it wasn't working. So that was super fun. I thought I'm like, now that I live in Europe, I'm gonna meet a celebrity every day. And it wasn't like that, but I met a couple of others from that cast. So.
Cool. Okay. Do you also manage to read non-technical book, or if you're doing, do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, I just finished Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which it's funny because it's not a technical book, but it's about friends, a girl and a boy that met when they are kids, and they, I don't know, spoilers, and they started a software company building games, which is I was not sure, I was just recommended the book to me, I didn't know how nerdy it was, but it was hilarious to read it and to find out and to feel so connected. So I love it, recommend it, great story, it reads very easy. And then I have a bunch of technical stuff, the likes of Radical Candor and the Staff Engineer and the Lean Startup, and a bunch of in my to-do list of things that I need to read. But they're all technical, and I started reading the art of storytelling, because I want to get better at, outlining talks, and like I do present at work a lot, so I want to get better at that too.
Yeah, great idea. I like the idea. Okay, at some point, COVID hit the whole world and changed our normal to working from home. I'd like to hear your opinion about post-COVID. How did it affect you first when it was COVID, and now how things has changed? And later, I'd like to talk about the layoffs, if they somehow hit you or your company, and how do you see that? Do you think this new year things are going to go away?
Wow, very modern topics. I love it. So the first one, around COVID, yeah, I think I can really complain because thankfully I was all right. We were all right. Like, it was fine, minus the lockdown for weeks and months. But mentally, like, it takes a toll, and it was tough. I think the whole humanity was tough. We were lucky in that sense, but it still was tough in this level of, like, I always enjoy going to the office, like, and suddenly, and I love my collaborations and my teammates, and we go to these things, and I tend to form good bonds with the people that I work with, because I appreciate the people that I work with, and not having that as close. Also, as an extrovert, I think it didn't help either. So it was like not great for me, to be honest. So there was that, but it did help in one way. I was maybe with the thought that the security of going to the office and talking to my team in case I needed something, in case I had a technical problem that was like too much, or like, a big challenge or a big problem somehow, they were always a side-by-side chat away. It was never, and I was never too far from a solution if I needed to. And being forced with this distance made me realize, okay, now you're a little bit more split on your own. Think before you bother someone with a call, because you don't have to, stand up and just like poke someone on the shoulder. Like, you come take a look. So it forced me to be less dependent and dig deeper into problems by myself. It created some kind of non-super healthy habits in which I would caught up with the problem and not being able to close the laptop until I got it. So I had to learn what real life work balance meant. So relearn all of that. I think among the terrible, awful, time that it was, taught me some things, taught us everything, taught us a multitude of things. It taught me some things about resilience and being more independent, and the things that I'm able to do, and how to ask for help and when to ask for help. When do you really need it? You're just like, maybe not that much. Improved my communication for a mile, taught me the value of written down documentation and communication for async things. And after that, I never had a problem being away from the office too much, or doing a workation, or like traveling from, or like for companies that allow you to do that, working remote with the feeling that it's fine. It's fine. Before all of this, I would have never considered being a contractor, for example, remotely for a company that is based in Romania or something. Now it's like, yeah, sure, this is one of the many other things that I can do. So it was positive on that side. And then after COVID, everything went a little bit back to reality, but now obviously, none of it really did. So now the standard is, even though I always consider it, the standard is, if I never want to go back to the office, it should be possible. And I know this industry is kind of backtracking in a bunch of stuff, and this is one of them. I noticed it in big tech, in some companies, which is kind of unfortunate. But that makes the ones that accommodate us more valuable, like, that's not to be taken for granted now, apparently. If the company is allowing you to, take full remote if you want, or partial remote, cool. They should be doing more, hopefully we would have been able to maintain full remote if you need to, but But well, things are changing. So there is that. Maybe your bar now is higher for what you expect the company to offer you, given that you've proven yourself that you can do the job just as fine or even better if you have this flexibility.
Yeah, exactly. Companies also learn that maybe they don't need people or everyone, or developers at least, to be always present or be monitored. Yeah. They will do their job. That's
yeah, I think so. And you could be like you could be even more effective and productive and use your time management super like in a better way that works for you, even if that means I work someday working insane hours. And I sometimes code weird hours, and people are like, oh, why were you awakened at this time? But sometimes you have ideas at weird times.
I know. Let's say we want to advise a junior developer who wants to start Android development. Do you suggest them to start with Java or just directly go to Kotlin?
Look, if this question would have been Compose or Views, I would have had a worse time answering that.
That's the next question. You can answer.
Oops. Okay, hold on. One at a time. So the first one, I would say Kotlin because it's state of the art. It's been for 6 years, I think, at this point. And what I noticed around industry standard, it's like developers have fully embraced Kotlin and never really looked back. It's just like, it's more readable, more concise. It has all the extension functions and node checking, all these things that are beautiful. It's just like funner to write. It's less boilerplatey. You don't have like the stupid semicolon. I don't know. It's more fun. Compatible coroutines, compatible compose. What else you right? So Kotlin, 100%. I have no doubt. Whereas Java, even though now, like, obviously we haven't touched it in many years properly, like the power of the language has changed a lot. I'm sure it's great, but maybe not for Android. Maybe for backend, you might want to like spend your skills there. I mean, that for an Android development, I don't think it's worth it. Having said that, Compose Views is trickier because there is an official recommendation that it's start with Compose and build with Compose, and you should 100% consider that. The thing is, industry-wide, there are teams that are starting migrating. You will see a lot of views. We have embraced Google's recommendation that we build new things in Compose. We love it. Like, we love Compose. We love it. So it's like release. And new components, new screens in Compose, new components in Compose, even though they have to be chopped into a view, whatever, we're going to do it in Compose. All of our, UI system is in Compose, design system is in Compose already. But views, you want to learn it because there will be legacy code. There will probably always be legacy code. And some companies might not even migrate, which, I mean, that might not make you super happy, but a job is a job. But if it is if it is in views, maybe you can be part of the migrating force behind the Compose train that it's like the migration process. But to understand what's going on, you're gonna need to read the view, so you need to understand what's going on there too. Even to migrate away from it, you need to know your enemy because there isn't a tool that does it for you like Java Kotlin. This is that's an next project. Someone wants to write that, please be my guest, and that would be cool. But
if you want to know my opinion regarding Java, not this Java, because we all know Java evolved a lot. They are following Kotlin or whatever modern language. They added lots of things, so you can even compare missing components in Java right now with Kotlin, and they're almost all the features out there. From Java at that point to Kotlin at that point, it was a huge jump. That's what I see. But from XML layout at this point and Compose, yes, Compose is fun, but as you said, companies might not get convinced that, okay, the layout is working fine. Why we need to do Compose? there are also other limitations. For example, I'm working on an SDK, and in SDK, you cannot depend that much on any library that you like. And that's also another limitation, which Layout does not have at the point. But yeah, good points. Thanks. Let's say this junior developer wants to get hired and now wants to attend an interview. How this person should prepare himself for that interview?
What a great question. I think there are two things that you can do. Building and getting familiar with the stack, building sample app, building to get familiar and refresh your general understanding of the Android development lifecycle for all things like, your typical detail screen, list of items, detail screen, like that you can refresh very easily. And then there are GitHubs, actually, open source community contributions to Android developer questions, which I completely love. I think, don't get me wrong, jumping into an interview that asks you what the activity life cycle is, I do not love that this is the industry standard, but sometimes it is the reality. I know, because I haven't had to interview for a while now, so I'm not sure what today is. To this level of, low-level interview Android one-on-one. But I know that this practice exists in the industry. What is the Android lifecycle? So review that, the fundamentals. Services and content providers and broadcast receivers and all these things, like the core fundamentals of what we do. How do you, things that you should know anyway, things that you will know anyway by creating, by your normal everyday job. What's the technology that you use for, doing networking? Do you use coroutines or Java, and why? Which one would you choose? Like all of these questions that you, like, why Kotlin? Like, what do you look at your favorite feature on Kotlin? You should have like an opinion of these things and being able to justify them. And then if they ask you, what happens after the on pause, inactivity, in API level, whatever, then you might be a little bit screwed, because who can know these things? I am an advocate against this type of question. So if that's a practice in your company, if you're listening, please don't.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
And the interview is a two-way communication. So at some point, you should also evaluate the company. What are your red flags for a company to not join? So we somehow advise to that junior developer who want to join.
What a great question. And I think there are, there are like a couple for sure. At company level, there could be like on flexibility and benefits and all these things that could apply for any company. So we're not going to focus on that. On team level, how open they are about trying new things, how much ownership you can get on the things that you do, how you can grow in your career. Again, this is how can you grow in your career? It's I guess it's like very applies for any company. What does it look like progression in a mobile team like that? But yeah, how do you own your stuff? How do you develop your stuff? The relationship between product and design, how is it? How much say you have in product? How much say you have in design? And how do you prioritize your work? And how do you organize your work? And how do you measure your metrics? Do you have metrics? Do you just put a feature there and you wish for the best? Do you do A/B testing? Do you do you measure performance? All these things. If they are clear, do you unit test? Are there any measures of quality metrics across the team? There are not necessarily red flags in that if none of this is there, it's gonna collapse, the world is gonna collapse. Maybe there is a big opportunity for you to bring these things to the table and be like, yo, we should be doing this and this and this and monitoring and all these things. So keep an eye on that. But if the team is you can find that the team is reactive to change, that they do not want to do this, that we've been doing Java for like till today. Maybe that's a red flag, because like, why? Like, how come? What is stopping you from modernizing? Priorities. Are you always running behind the deadline, behind the product deadline? Are you always on fire? How much room do you have to tackle technical debt? None of it. Then, well, that's a red flag, So yeah, look out for those, I guess.
Yeah, great answers. All of them are really matter. We all have got rejected, so that's a part of interview. So let's say our junior developer was interviewing, got a very nice email from HR that you did great, but we prefer not to continue with you. How do you cope with this situation? I know it's really hard. I've been.
I'm feeling physical pain just by listening to this question, because we've all been there, right? Like, we've all been rejected, and it sucks. But it sometimes sucks more when you thought you did great. Like, there is like two things, right? When you're like, on the bench, you're like, I'm not sure, and you get rejected, you're like, that could have been unexpected. And then when you're like, completely screwed up, and then you're like more prepared for it, because you're like, yeah. So the dread you feel immediately after the interview, you don't feel it when the rejection comes. The rejection is just like, a reaffirmation of something that you've already cried over. Interviewing is hard, man. Like, interviewing is, you're a nerve ball, a nerve wreck. It can be terrifying. How do you cope? Well, you have to remember, that they're just like measuring a part of what you are and a part of what you know, not even a part of what you are, because you're not your job, right? So it's only a part of what you know. If you are not lucky enough that those things didn't align, and maybe they did align, but the person didn't like you, there are multiple factors over what an interview can go wrong, I can tell you, I can tell you all the rejection experience that I went through, which was great. It was like amazing. I submitted years ago, I submitted a sample app written in Kotlin, but it was one of my first projects written in Kotlin. And they do the HR interview. First, there is a code challenge, and then they invite you over for offsite. And they have never rejected me on the code challenge part, because you take your time, you code it, and you do the dance, right? And I did it. I did the code challenge. It worked perfectly. Amazing tests and whatever. And I got rejected, and big time. Kotlin was very new. I was like trying it out, and I had the brilliant idea to try it with the that I had to submit. And then obviously it was reviewed by very senior people on Kotlin, and they said, you wrote a Java app in Kotlin. And that's very true, because that's how we started writing these things. And I felt like it was unfair, and So how do you cope? Remember that you can always grow from this. You can always reapply. And I know it's terrible, and I know your illusions are crushed, but you can always reapply. There can always be a better moment, and it can always be for the better. So focus on another thing and don't think too much about it. It's not a part of who you are, it's a part of what you know. So there is also that. There will be another time. There will be another time, and it will be for the better. But yeah, tough situation.
Yeah. I agree. One thing that came to my mind is that most of the companies have some cool down time. So normally they say you can come back after 3 months or 6 months and then apply again. If that company is somehow your, I don't know, goal to join, so you can always get fresh and learn from that interview and then go back again to them. That always happens.
Yeah, and if you're not super devastated over, oh my God, and you can, and I know it's difficult because sometimes it can be very sad to have this happen to you, but if you can take it with a growth mindset of what can I learn from this so this doesn't happen, it will only be another tool in your toolbox. This won't happen, and you will there is a skill of practicing for interviews. You need certain skill set, because when you're coding in your home, right? You don't have the pressure of someone looking at what you're doing. You don't have to talk out loud to describe. Oh, and now I'm gonna, put a linked list because that makes sense in this case, in this problem, because you don't have to do any of that because you kind of know intuitively. Or there is a pull request that comes, and you send a pull request and you get a review that says, oh, have you considered this? Like, it's a collaboration of sorts. You're not expected to get it right. Like, that's why you have a team, and that's why, all these things. So you can take it with the wrong mindset of, I'm going to take this, and the next time I'm going to crush it big time. You will, I think. And I truly believe that, because, yeah, I guess experience has a little bit told me that. So good luck to you if you're preparing your interview. It will be possible. But just be kind to yourself as well. I think interviewing is hard for us all.
Yeah, I agree. One more thing that came to my mind is that some of the company gives you feedback, maybe one sentence or a paragraph. But if they don't give you can always ask, saying that, hey, okay, I accept that I'm rejected, but if it's okay, just give me a short feedback, because I really care about improving any point that I'm missing, and it's just not working right now. Okay. Do you think Android developers should have a deep algorithmic knowledge to answer some crazy algorithm questions during interview?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know that, the interview processes involve these insane, sometimes very complex algorithmic questions, and for things that then maybe you never do it. So this question, I don't think it's fair sometimes for the type of work that you're expected to then be doing later to be exposed to this type of questions to that degree. Namely the hard level of lead codes, because probably you're never going to use that to that extent. Easies and mediums can help you assess the candidate in a little bit more fair way, because you need to compare them with some criteria that seems fair. Like it cannot be all kind of vibe, because you want to be as fair as possible. I've been there in the other side and interviewing, and sometimes it is the tool that you have. It is the tool that you believe is the best, and the company supports that, and there is no other way. Now, crazy algorithm problems like the one in cracking the code in interviewed some pages, maybe not to that extent. If Android developer needs this knowledge, you need to know your structures. Like you need you need to know your maps, your links, your data, like your heaps. You need to know that you have all these tools, that they exist, how to use them, how to and that I believe is useful, and how you can improve the performance of this if you use this structure or not this structure. I think all of those are useful, and I would argue that I use them relatively often. But I don't have to program a chessboard and finding the 9 queens every day. But we have sometimes a somewhat complex algorithm for a particular thing that sometimes you need a little bit more stuff. But then you can have support again, right? You have now more than ever, especially with AI. Now you have more help than you never before. So,
you can ask ChatGPT. That's it.
Yeah. Look, this part is really complex, and I'm not really sure why. It's very funny because like just yesterday I solved the problem with. That could be a question, is AI helping you, and how? Write it down.
Go on.
Yes, exactly. No, yesterday I solved the problem with ChatGPT, and I said I thought that a method could be simplified. So I knew that a method could be simplified, but I couldn't think about a condition. So I asked ChatGPT, "Can this be simplified?" And they gave me an alternative, and it wasn't right. But it gave me another idea. Like it services like that. It gives you a good starting point. It triggers ideas, and you don't want to ping your teammates every time for everything. Now the questions are super relevant. The questions that get through the team are very relevant to the business, to what you need to be paying attention to, not to the not to the tech. The tech is just a tool, another tool.
Yeah, that's 100% true. So with AI, you cannot 99% you cannot get a code that you just copy and paste and it works. But as you said, it just gives you some aha moment that you say, aha, now I know how to do it. Thanks for the hint. But day by day, I'm using Copilot, the AI from GitHub. For example, today I was trying to cover a very sensitive logic inside our code 100% with unit test. And it was helping a lot. It was just give me the next test possible or give me some hint about the title of the text. It was cool. It was cool. Nice, but yeah. It also gave me something wrong, so I had to read it. You have to always review whatever they suggest.
Always review, it's like any other peer that is throwing code at you, but it doesn't even compile. So they didn't even review it very well. So you have to just read it, review it like you would review any other code that you want to comment,
I think we already talked about this. What skills do you think a junior developer should have? Do you think they should learn the whole API from API level 1, or just use whatever is recent and then they learn on the path, on the way?
Yeah. I think you should know the basic the building blocks of Android, and know that they exist, know that you can use them. But I would focus on what's latest, Thankfully, there are things that as the platform moves on, you don't even need anymore, because like the recommended minimal SDK version, the more recent it gets, the less ifs you need to support this weird scenario, that other scenario, and it will only get better and better and more consistent. So that is great. I will follow on the for junior developers on the current thing. And then when they have this obscure, insane stuff, they can dig deeper into, it doesn't work in API 30. And this is why. It's because the foreground service, it was remove this permission and yeah.
It comes with experience. So when you hit the problem, or you want to try, or you want to support a very low minimum SDK, then you will learn it. But at the beginning, I don't think you need to know everything. What is your suggestion for a technical book to our junior developers?
In particular, I like, Compose internals. I think it gives a lot of, but this is like very, very niche, very Android specific. I really liked some of the explanations of how it works on the inside. So that's great. I appreciated some of the talks of domain-driven design. It's not a book, but there are like some talks that comprise the contents of the book with the same name. Very interesting topics if you have a domain that is very complex and you want it to be strongly typed and managed properly, which in particular we have in our code base. And I guess clean code helped me. Some ideas. You don't need it anymore because the architecture guide is, spot on now. So that will be enough. But yeah, in general, like I read a lot of the of our documentation. And you know what I read? Actually, I read a lot of our documentation, which is great, and digest this part and whatever. But I read a lot of Compose code now, like reading and navigating and dig deeper, and it's my favorite thing in the world because it's so clear. Imagine reading Vue.java. That's just not possible. Imagine reading edit text.java. Wow. Not as easy to read as the pure, beautiful Compose libraries written in Kotlin that you can navigate and like you can even copy and modify to your own liking. So that's a difference.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay, let's say this junior developer likes to become a senior developer. So What's your definition of a senior developer? Who is a senior developer? Is he the person or she the person who knows everything Android, or there are other characteristics that they should somehow achieve?
I think mainly two things make you more senior and make you senior as a whole. Well, a couple of them make you, but definitely experience, and the more you do something, the more skilled you get, but also it exposes more to problems that you will have, right? I remember that when I was at one of my first jobs, there was like this senior developer, and she would sit down with me sometimes. We would pair code, and I would see how she solved the problem, how she navigated, how she read the logs, how she knew where to look. And that would blow my mind, because I would be like, oh, it doesn't compile, like lost, like, oh my God, like, this is what. The other day I tweeted that 80% of being a senior developer is keeping your cool when things blow up and reading the damn logs. And there is a lot of that. You learn with experience that it's fine. You learn with experience that this will be solved. It looks obscure, but you can start here, and this will be connected, and like observe, like keeping calm, observing the symptoms. That comes with the experience of having done it multiple times. It's not magic. It's sitting down, it's putting in the effort, the time, the coding, and everything. So there is a lot of that. With seniority also comes sense of ownership. You want to own bigger problems. You want to lead bigger initiatives. So there is a lot of taking this on, laying out, like proposing the problem, laying out the problem, and breaking down into more manageable chunks of work that then anyone can pick. But the part of digesting what this entails, like owning the solution and all these things, is not something that a junior developer can own, because it's an undefined problem. A junior developer will be more comfortable taking pieces that are very digested, very refined. Like, you need exactly what you need to do, and then it's just like coding, and that's being more coder, but it's still very true. You need to build your foundation of building and building and building, and then you can lift your head up and start looking at the bigger picture, and that's how you grow as well. So there will be like those two things. And then there is also like, mentorship. Once you know what's up, you can tell the rest of the team, oh, this is what's up. I know, let me show you the way. You get that with the product area. You get more you get this knowledge that is not transferable when you leave, business knowledge, institutional knowledge, the business rules of the thing that lives with you when you change jobs. But then there is like, the Android handicap, like the Android like expertise that follows along. But what makes money is like, in the business rules as well. Like, you have to balance them both. And then you can scale what you know and mentor on the product level, which is super. And then on the Android, your skills on Android level as well. By being a beacon of trust and knowledge for the rest of the team. So that's the components that I think for a senior developer. It's not that, it sounds like a lot of stuff, but everything comes, it comes with the time and experience. And as you change job, you're a senior in your job, but then you change job and you're like, how can you be senior too? Right? Because you inherently understand what it takes. So maybe the part of the business rule are not there, but you understand where to look for them, how to build that knowledge, who to ask for, who to reach out to, how to solve your question, how to look in Slack, how to help yourself. That is also a skill that you learn. Who can give you the people that you need that can help you fill these gaps as quick as possible, and then you wrapped up and you're already like very quickly operating at the same level of the other rest of the senior developers. I don't know if it's clear, but that I'm being TL now with all of this speak, but yeah. Anyway, yes, those are my thoughts, and yeah, again, sounds like a lot, but it's part of the your career, your natural career progression. You will get there by being a software developer.
Yeah, I love that you're so opinionated about things that we are talking, because you almost touched all the topics, and you're doing great. I agree with all of the things that you said. I like to maybe add on top is the fact that being active in the community and caring about sharing is also another thing, because when you share, you learn more, or you have to go and learn to be able to share. That's also another part. What do you like to work with in a team? A mixture of junior and senior developer, or you like your team all to be senior developers?
That's super interesting. Well, obviously, it's a great question because I'm observing these things more now. I think a team of seniors is cool because, like, they don't really need you too much. You can course correct some things, so you can help them with some stuff, and it makes you feel that it's an easy job when all your team is great and they're all seniors and your team is great. What I appreciate from a software engineer that is not senior yet is that you can help them more by providing the correct project, the correct opportunity, by pinpointing it to the correct thing, or like contributing to seeing their growth, because the slope of that curve will be a little bit steeper. Like, you will notice quicker. Like, with seniors can happen as well, but maybe it's not as noticeable how that progression happens. So I like the mix of both. Also, it's amazing the dynamics that get at play with different seniorities, because when the maybe more junior developer ends up giving a session on something that they are teaching us, it's super empowering to them, and noticing how that happens, how that dynamic plays out. It makes me super happy for them and their career progression. They can teach you, we can teach them. It's it's an opportunity for everybody. So yeah, I guess the one is simpler, easier. The other one gives you more rewarding satisfaction. I think you can help a junior developer more as a deal.
Based on my experience, you also get junior developers also bring something on the table that you somehow did not expect, or I don't know, a senior developer did not even think about, or they may ask a question which from their perspective maybe sounds stupid, but they somehow light up some bulb in the head of some senior developers that, wow, we never think about it this way. Or one more thing that I like is the fact that when you have a junior developer in the team, you try to code more readable. That's something that I learned. Because before that, you say, okay, all my teammates are senior, they know Kotlin crazy, and if I put one line of expression, one after another, chain to each other, no one is going to complain. But then you forget about readability of even yourself in the future, because you cannot read that code anymore in the future. That's also another point that I really liked about working with junior developers.
They hold you accountable, don't they? They hold you accountable for your own code quality, and it's no longer maybe. And I love what you said about thinking outside of the box. I see that all the time. It's oh yeah, of course, they are paying attention to all these things, that they are noticing these patterns, and they are usually full of energy, and they are they bring all of this excitement of not having seen this. They are like, oh, why, that was cool. And you as a senior developer can be a little bit more worn out, more chill. You need that chill. That chill is it's a skill that you get, but it might blind you with the other things. So again, we come to the fact that balanced in seniority, balanced in gender, balanced.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks for accepting my invitation. It was very interesting talk. I was looking forward to it to happen sooner. And is there anything that I forgot to ask, or you like to talk about at the
end? No, but I would encourage everyone to keep on trying Compose, because it's the future. Even though they're we need to help it be the future as well. By bumping into the problems and reporting and giving feedback and all these things. And yeah, I guess that is Thank you so much for the invite as well. And yeah, I was really looking forward to come and have this chat. It's always cool to speak with the community. And yeah.
How people can reach you? Are you active on Twitter or other platforms?
Yes, I'm active on Twitter and some Slack channels, the Kotlin Land channel. You can find me there if you have a concrete question and you're part of that community in the Kotlin Land. And in Twitter, I'm there as my surname, Stamato K, which I'm sure will be somewhere.
Exactly. Cool. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for watching this interview with us. And if you are an Android developer or want to become an Android developer, I do a lot of videos around this topic. I interview active members of the community, so you can get inside what's their lifestyle, what they think about Android, how they reached to this point. And yeah, that's it. Click the subscribe button if you like to follow these topics. And thanks. Have a nice day. Bye.